Welcome to this Killik Explains finance video. This week, a huge phrase, financial planning, in just 4 words. Can it be done? I think so. So off we go. Number 1 is goals. Now this is the tough bit. This anchors everything else I'm about to say, but it's not as bad as it sounds. It does require a bit of effort. Goals is all about saying, well, where are you now and where do you want to be in the future? Now, where you want to be in the future is personal. Maybe in 5 years' time you qualify for a sabbatical from work. You'll need some money for that. Maybe you want to educate your children privately. You'll need some money for that. Maybe you're planning to clear your mortgage. Well, you presumably got some idea of when you'd like to do that by. Be realistic, maybe not tomorrow, all right, but maybe in 10, 15 years' time. You're going to want to retire, and you must have some idea when that's going to be, even if you don't exactly hit the date, some idea, 65 for argument's sake. And finally, there'll be some things you need to pay for further out, like funding care. And people say, well, this is all so difficult, but it's not really. You do know the earliest date at which you'll need to start paying for education. You know when your kids are going to go to university. You know when you want to replace the car. My wife and I, it's usually once every 5 years, for argument's sake. So these things are not actually as difficult to map out as you might think. You can't get it down to the exact day, but you can get it into a sensible range. And from there, you can then start to say, well, okay, if I'm looking at the big one, retirement, that's when I haven't got an income and I need to have funds set aside to cover what could be 25, 30 years after I retire, then let's have lifetime savings. Let's put money aside in the equity market, building up quietly, slowly and confidently towards that retirement date. Rainy day funds, on the other hand, let's make sure we've got that emergency fund set aside, the leaky roof, being fired, getting ill. Let's have that 3 to 6 month salary set to one side, probably in cash. And then in the middle, we've got some predictable cash requirements, not down to the absolute day, but we've got some cash requirements. We know roughly when they're going to fall. We can predict roughly how much they're going to be. So let's have an investment strategy in place that makes sure we're in a position both to have the money there and able to release it at the right moment. So actually, although it sounds grand, financial planning, it comes down to just sitting down and being a little bit didactic and patient about setting out what you want to achieve by when. There's word number 1. Number 2 is knowledge. Now this is where technical stuff comes in. Sounds a bit dull, but it's quite important. You need to know where you are now. That's not a philosophical question, it's a practical question. So what I call a personal balance sheet. Won't hammer that here, but basically what are you worth at the moment is a good starting point. What are your assets? Maybe a property, maybe investments, maybe cash. What are your liabilities? Mortgages, loans and so on, and what's the difference? Hopefully positive. That's a good place to start. That'll need monitoring and hopefully it'll grow over time. And then what can you afford to save? And that's where budgeting comes in, a little bit of a sort of back of an envelope calculation. I know my income, I know my expenses, there's the difference. How much have I got? How much can I afford to put away? Is there anything I could do to increase the amount that I'm saving and investing? It's that kind of thing. So there's word number 2, knowledge. There's lots of stuff you can do behind there, but that's word number 2. Number 3, time. Make time your friend. Now, I've shown lots of charts like this in previous videos, so here's a quick reminder of how you can make time your friend. If you could afford to put £300 a month away over 25 years, and ignore charges and assume you can do it tax effectively if you like, so within an ISA for argument's sake, then the green bars represent the actual cash you will have put to one side, 300 quid times 25 years times 12, and the red bars represent your potential tax-free growth on top. Now I say potential because investing in things like stocks means they can go down as well as up. You might lose some of your initial investment, and the growth rates I'm about to pop up here are not guaranteed. But nonetheless, at a 2% growth rate, you could be looking at over £100,000 set to one side. At 5%, that's the regulator's mid-rate if you like, you could be looking at getting on for £200,000 set to one side, and at 8%, where you're fortunate enough to achieve that, more like £275,000 set to one side. And time works for you. The earlier you start, so if you increase that 25 years, all good. If you can increase the amount you save, all good. And let's hope your investment strategy can deliver some half-decent returns. All good. Make it tax effective. Another good point there. And so on. So there is time working for you. And that's a point I've made before and I'll probably make again. 4th word is discipline. Now people say stock market investing is so difficult because the stock market goes down as well as up, and if it goes down at the wrong time, well, make sure it isn't the wrong time for you in a sense. So let's take a look at this. The stock market since the early 1970s has suffered big cycles, as they're called, big downturns, but they've typically lasted, now the past is no guarantee of the future, 5 to 7 years. There was a big one back here in the early 70s, that was horrendous. You got another one there after the dot-com bubble, another one there after the financial crisis, and so on. So let's have a strategy, all right? What do we want to be doing to take account of that? Well, let's keep the rainy day funds in cash, let's say. Let's have the bulk of our lifetime savings, that retirement pot, in equities, because though the past is no guide to the future, equities have normally outperformed both gilts and cash over the long term. And then in the middle, those medium-term investment goals, if you like, let's be flexible. If they're coming up in the next 5 to 7 years, then yeah, we don't want to risk not having the money available to be able to pay for those things, like that sabbatical, like that car, like that second home, like clearing the mortgage, if you're fortunate enough to have that kind of money, educating the kids. So let's make sure we're not in high risk spectrum equities at that point in time, where we can see that commitment coming. All right, but if it falls in, say, 10 years plus, maybe we can afford to take a little bit more investment risk. So, match the obligation to the asset that's trying to get you to it. Don't panic sell and don't be a forced seller. That's my point. Never bail out of the market because everyone else is. That's a completely useless thing to do. And don't be a forced seller, which is all about this kind of planning stuff. Any questions on what is quite a big topic, summarised in 4 words, editor@killik.com. And to see other videos around the whole tax-effective saving topic, if you like, please go to killikexplains.com and click on the tax-effective saving tab.